Thank you for joining us at H360 Health Talk. I'm here today with Bob and Linda Carey from the Carey Foundation. Now, they've got some really exciting things going on. Number one, they've got the Tutu Project, and we're going to talk all about that. They've been on our show before, and welcome back, guys. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much for having us.
So it's been a while since we've gotten together. And if you could just refresh our community on the Tutu Project and what it is. Linda, you were going through the cancer journey. The Tutu Project came about. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, Bob has been doing this project for over 10 years, and he was taking self-portraits of himself in a tutu. I was diagnosed with breast cancer 15 years ago, and it was just a little way for us to step away from the gravity of cancer. And then 2 years later, my cancer came back, and I started taking the images. By that time, he had a pretty solid body of work, and I took it into the chemotherapy with me, and the ladies really responded to it. And I went home and told Bob these stories, and he said, great, we should make a book and have them in cancer centers across the United States. And we didn't get to cancer centers, but that's how it started.
Now, Bob, you're very familiar with being behind the camera because that's how you make your living. So you're traveling the world. You're a very well-known photographer shooting in these unbelievably exotic and beautiful areas. And you decide all of a sudden one day to put a pink tutu on and take a few photos. What went through your mind there?
I started photographing myself in 1994 after my mom had passed away from breast cancer. And so how I dealt with grief or challenging times was to photograph myself as a form of self-therapy. And so after Linda and I had moved to New York, and the kind of trauma of moving to New York, which was so much different, I was photographing myself and I had a tutu left over, and my work was all about transforming myself and kind of getting away. And so when Linda was diagnosed is when I started photographing myself in the tutu, and it was kind of more of a piece of cloth that took me away. It was like somebody wore a wig, you know, it changes them, that gives them the permission to do things that they wouldn't ordinarily do. And so when Linda was diagnosed, it was a way for me to get out of reality. And for her, what she likes about when she sees me do that is she sees me have the freedom to do things, and it makes her happy to see me creating things, you know, and it helped her because she knew that I was happy to get away, but it also made her happy seeing these creations. And then it also gave her the opportunity to be a part of the project, and it helped us get closer during this really rough time, because she would be a part of the edit, she would be a part of the choices. And so the tutu it wasn't about breast cancer in the beginning. It was pink because the first image was made in black and white, so it wouldn't be bright. It just so happened that it was just out of my passion and our passion to make sure that we were taking care of ourselves during this time.
Yeah.
That the gift, I call it like a gift that was given to us, and we were able to share with other people.
So, Bob, you said you were on a shoot and you had a leftover tutu. Were you? Yeah. How did that happen? Were you on a shoot?
No, I was asked by Ballet Arizona. It was when I still lived in Arizona, to give my interpretation of ballet.
Got it.
So I'd been photographing myself for like 10 years at that time. So I had a tutu made. I put it on. 8 months later, after that assignment was done, we moved to New York, and we drove across country. The first image was made in Santa Fe, New Mexico, at a friend's house and her barn. And I put it on, made the first picture, then kind of sat on that image and just really didn't know what it was about. And then after a couple months, I went to Coney Island. I started making the pictures, and then it was just kind of about being in New York and it was like being all alone in a city of 8 million people. You know, except we had friends, but it was different.
Yeah.
I lived in one place for 42 years.
Yeah. Now, Linda, thinking back, what was the first image that came across when Bob showed you these images of him in a tutu? What was the very first image that you can remember seeing with him in this tutu?
I would go back to the first black and white image. That was really funny. We tried different ways to answer, very traditional ways to answer the question, what does ballet mean to Bob? And he said, you know what, let's just get a tutu made. And so that was a brand new idea. And it was a funny idea, I thought. It's like, okay, sure, why not do a tutu? So there was that one. And then I think it was just the evolution of how he would take these pictures and how his emotions, the isolation that he felt from living in New York City, even as Bob said, there's so many people here. So as to say which one stood out, oh, that's a tough one. I like the second one, the barn image. It was so new. We're embarking on this new journey from Phoenix to Brooklyn. I mean, that was a huge change. And we're 42, which is, a lot of people don't do that when they're 42. But we're like to have an adventure. So I don't know, I can't say which one exactly because they all struck me as interesting and, well, therapeutic.
So you've got these photos, Bob's out traveling the world and he's getting himself photographed in these tutus in all these faraway places. How did that lead to setting up the foundation?
Well, there were many years that Bob was taking these pictures, and we had the idea that we wanted to do this book and get him in cancer centers, or however that was going to work. We tried to get the book published by different publishers. That didn't work. So this is probably 2009 by now. We moved out here in 2003. And then around beginning of 2012, some friends called us and said, hey, you really need to do something with this body work. Don't give up. So it's like, okay, what are we going to do? We want to raise money, but how do we do this? We sold Bob's prints and a book for discount. We raised money that way. And I would say probably 6 months later, the book was printed. And we realized that we had a great vehicle to raise money. Not just a product, but the story really helped us. So in between that 6 months of launching the website and getting the book out, we formed a nonprofit. And it just seemed like we had no idea what we were doing. It's like, sure, why not? Let's start a nonprofit. Because we didn't know where to put the money. Yeah. You know, I mean, we looked at different organizations. It's like, well, that doesn't quite feel right. That doesn't feel right. And from our own experience, I mean, cancer is financially draining. And we thought, well, maybe we can help people out with the different types of financial needs that we have experienced.
Yeah. Now tell us about some of the things that you do with the money. How do you find the people that need the money? How do you disperse it? You know, where does the money go?
Well, we have a grant process once a year, and I look for people. You know, I'm always searching for people because what we really want, every year I get, I really want the money to help people financially. So I keep looking, it's like, okay, really, where does that money go? So we grant to grassroots organizations similar to ourselves with a similar mission. They help us vet these programs because it's just Bob and I working on this. And we have and Marcella also. So I'm the only full-time person. So we do that, and what the costs that they help cover are wigs, lymphedema garments, transportation to doctor's appointments, child care. Last year we worked with Living Beyond Breast Cancer and had a travel grant for women to travel to a metastatic breast cancer conference, which was really exciting. I just keep looking. Cancer Care was another organization, Living Beyond Breast Cancer, and then a few smaller organizations. But every year I'm more specific. I want to really make sure, like for instance, one year we gave money to someone who had, there's sort of like cheer packages, but lotions and, journals and things like that. And it's like, well, we can take care of that. We can do that piece, and then with the rest of the money, it can specifically help with financial needs.
Now, when people talk about breast cancer, right away, everybody thinks that it's a female condition. And not a lot of people realize that men can get breast cancer as well. And I know you've done some work with the Male Breast Cancer Coalition. Tell us about some of that work and how you got partnered up with them and what kind of collaboration you have going on there.
Well, we looked, it was probably 4 years ago, we were looking for an organization that helped men, because I didn't even know that men got breast cancer. And so I was like, well, let's search. Marcella and I were looking, and we found the coalition, and it's like, how can we help? We had a little fundraiser in the very beginning, and actually we've had 2 fundraisers. And so we just started developing a relationship with them, and we helped them with a video, somewhat with a video, because it's really, with male breast cancer right now, I think a big part of it is awareness, because with breast cancer, everybody knows that women get breast cancer. But I think that it's really important that people understand that men do as well. The thing as far as financially with men, they are less likely to ask for money.
Yeah.
So we just continue our relationship, and I know there will be an opening. I know at some point, a man with breast cancer will say, hey, I'm having a challenge. Can you help me? And we'll be right there.
Yeah.
I think it's the awareness that people don't really know about. Like, I'm learning more through a friend of ours. Her long distance cousin was diagnosed, a male, and passed away from male breast cancer, and she took the gene test, and she had it, and her other people in her family had it. But what I didn't know was that women can benefit from this. You know, it's like, oh wow, a male in my family had it. Well, you know, that can translate to a woman's condition as well.
Yeah.
And that's what I never knew that. And she, you know, was pre-cancer at that point. So I think that's really important for, even though there's only 1%, it's a clue for women. Wow, my male cousin had it. I better get checked.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, definitely. So the BRCA gene and other gene mutations, you know, you've got to get tested if it runs in your family. Self-exams, so important, right? It's not just women, it's men as well. When you're in the shower, you know, make sure that, you know, you don't feel a lump or something strange that you've never felt before. And if you do, get in to see a doctor right away, because early detection can save lives.
Yeah, it's true.
So Bob, let's get back to your work and, you know, kind of the culmination of what you're doing in terms of taking the photos and how that brings a little bit of joy to people, puts a smile on their face when they're faced with somewhat of a grim condition. Now, I've seen photos of you in Times Square. I've seen photos of you in a tutu in the windows at department stores. Do you ever get these looks like, what is this guy doing? You're in the middle of Times Square. Traffic is somewhat stopped around you. There's thousands of people surrounding you with all the lights and glimmer of Times Square. And there's Bob in his tutu right in the heart of things saying, hey, we're here to draw some awareness to a real important cause.
Well, they don't really know. A lot of them don't know. I think, you know, Times Square, you know, nobody really cares. But if you're in, like, St. Louis, then it's like, it can be very disconcerting to some people. You know, like, they'll call the police, they'll keep their children away, they'll, you know, but then now, since our project is more well known, people will know who we are. You know, like, I was in Grand Central Station and I was shooting, and I put a tripod down, and we were doing our Dare to Tutu campaign, and it was so I just had Linda and Marcella stand around my tripod so it would block, so the police wouldn't see it. And then, so we did a shot. I was there, just so happened to run into a National Geographic photographer that I'm, have known a little bit, and I've just really respected his work. And he did a photograph with me there, and then I did my photograph, and then I walked up to the tripod, and there are two police officers with AK-47 standing there, and I'm like, oh God, we're like in trouble. And one of the police officers was like, oh, Bob, I've been following your work for 3 years and blah, blah, blah. And he goes, we can set it up and take you all over the secret spots in the catwalk. And, so I thought I was in trouble, but I think people are more leery of the tutu, it's about like how people translate I kind of call it my uniform, it's like how people, judge you by what you're wearing, it's like, and so I think that, in the past 15 years, even before, like I would have truckers stop and take pictures of me and honk. I've only been called names maybe 3 times. Huh. But if somebody called me a name, I would always turn and say, hey, how's it going? And if I started walking towards them, they would just almost run. So it's not like they're coming to beat me up. They're just unsure. Yeah. And I think that, a lot of people say, oh, you lose a bet, that's like, but it's, and now, like, if I'm in Times Square, there's a lot of people that know who I am. Yeah. And they'll come up and want pictures, or they'll, we give out stickers, and, so people know. I think that the work is not so much about, it's about making people happy. It's about putting a smile on their face, but it's also, they're also made to give a response to the viewer, and it's not always super happy. It's a reflection. I've noticed with cancer patients, they look at them and they're like, they've said, they can see themselves in that, especially with the starkness or them feeling small. And that's what, if I feel small, it's like me going through like weight gain, so like if I lose weight, I'll turn around and face the camera. Yeah. But if I'm heavy, I'll turn around because I know I can just like push the little glove handles in Photoshop, so it's like, it's about, I think people can see, maybe, and how the edit goes, like which images we pick can really tell like what maybe I was going through that day, or sure, what they're going through that day. If I'm facing the camera, if it's more fun, if I'm jumping, if I'm jumping, it gets happier. Yeah. If I'm, so it's kind of a journey that they get to follow and make up their own decision on how they interpret it.
So what's the Dare to Tutu fundraiser that you have going on?
Well, we thought it would be fun to invite people to put on a tutu. It's like somewhat what Bob said. You put it on and you become something else. It's a mask, and people really respond to that. It's like, okay, so how can we get people to fundraise for us and put a tutu on? Right. We put it out there, and we started a fundraising page, and we invited initially individuals. It's like, hey, grab a tutu, put it on, take pictures, which is also fun because people love to see pictures on our Facebook page of someone wearing a tutu. I don't know what it is exactly, but people really respond to that. So we started off with individuals, and then we branched out to schools and businesses and corporations. And people love it. And the whole idea, it's in the month of October. Well, it's actually all year, but the big fundraiser is the month of October. Put on a tutu, raise money. So grab your family, have them put on a tutu. I mean, we had a turtle. Somebody sent in a picture of a turtle in a tutu.
So where can somebody get a tutu?
They can get it on our website. We have a shop. It's the tutuproject.com, the TUTU project.com.
Okay.
We have a shop. We have all colors. We have pink, blue, rainbows of colors, because we want to support, although we don't financially support other cancers, we think it's important that we have a tutu representing other cancers.
Sure. Yeah. So, Linda, where are you in the journey now, your personal journey?
Well, as far as cancer goes, my cancer came back. It metastasized to my liver in 2006, and I've been on Herceptin and Xeloda, Xeloda being the chemotherapy, for 11 years. And I'm doing well. I mean, I'm sitting here talking to you. That's a bonus right there.
Bonus.
And I mean, I never really paid attention to statistics, but now that I'm working more in the breast cancer community, I understand that I'm an anomaly, or they call me a unicorn. And I'm very grateful every day that I wake up.
So Bob, what's the next evolution of the work that you're doing with your photos? Or do you plan on taking it to a different level? Do you plan on expanding it out? Is it going to be more tutu photos of you in different locations? What are you thinking is the next evolution of your work?
Well, I think that, since this went viral and more people are knowing about that, I think it would, for me, is to have, more people be aware of what it is and what it's like to live with cancer, and what can I do to not for them living with cancer, but so I think what's next is to make sure at least 50% of the people out there know what struggles other people go through during cancer, because like statistics show that more and more people are being diagnosed, and I think that what would be good is to have bigger corporations support us in giving us the venues that we need to, to show the work, and there could be some evolution there to how that goes down, so what we're always looking for is like hockey teams, baseball teams, to have the access to do that work. Yeah. Some of the most impactful work was given the opportunity to work with American Ballet Theater, to work with the NFL, to have access to the Big Apple Circus, and I think to join with people that will support us, because it doesn't take a lot to have access. It's just important for people to understand why what we're doing is important to help single people. Like, instead of, I was always told, you have an elephant to eat and you can't eat it in one bite. Yeah. So it's like just chunking away at it.
Yeah.
Not that we eat elephants. That's not a good PC thing to. Sorry, I was.
The Big Apple Circus will forgive us on that analogy.
Yeah, I didn't mean. Yeah, please don't show that part.
Well, listen, at HealthTalk, we're also partnered with Vital Options International, which is a foundation with a very similar mission to yours. We also believe, as you do, that going through the cancer journey can be financially distressful on a family. It can put a lot of burdens on parents and children and all the way around. It can be a very lonely and tiresome journey. And so to that end, we've established at Vital Options International the Selma Schimmel Vital Grant, which is a grant that we give out to foundations and others like us that are doing good work, but that also make sure that 100% of the grant that we award goes directly to helping patients get through the financial hardship of dealing with their condition. So this is something very, very new to Vital Options International. We just launched this at the end of last year, but we're pleased to present to you a $5,000 check for the very first annual Selma Schimmel Vital Grant. So
Thank you so
getting a little
much.
choked
you.
up here. So
Thank you so much.
This is so
take that. That'll
That's
help
amazing.
help your
Thank you so much.
your efforts and certainly help the lives of patients living with cancer.
Well, thank you.
This will make a big difference. And what I like about this is that I get to have more hands-on with this. Because, as I mentioned before, that we don't have enough people to vet everything, but this, I'm going to take care of this myself. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
you.
Thank you for joining
Thanks
us.
for your support.
Absolutely.
It means a great
Amazing.
deal to us as well as all those lives that you're going to touch.
Well, thank you for joining us,
Thanks.
and we invite you to join us on our next episode of H360 Health Talk.